Sometimes we have experiences which we interpret as being a supernatural, that is, an experience of God. And there are different possibilities for why we think we are experiencing God, or at least why some of us think we are experiencing God. And the third, there were 5 possibilities that I explicitly mentioned in the last video. So the third of the 5 is that we wanted to, as human beings, we wanted to explain things we saw in nature, and the best we could do was creating myths. And that's where this idea of gods and goddesses and something more than just the natural comes from. So let's consider that possibility now. Primitive and naive mankind was just that, primitive and naive. We cannot expect them to know our modern explanations from natural science, and natural science was not even invented until centuries later. Myths may be the most plausible explanations of natural phenomenon of that time, but know what a myth is. A myth is typically viewed, whether literally true or only allegorically true, as what happened long ago and far away. It is ancient history. Myth in and of itself is thus potent as an explanation of belief that there were gods active in the past, but that is not our question. Our question here is, what have the gods done lately? Myth alone is powerless to explain our present religious experience, and a powerless possibility is no possibility at all. So let's move on to the 4th possibility. Surely in a scientific age such as our own, we have a good scientific explanation for putative experiences of the transcendent. Do we not? The advice of Treebeard behooves us here. Let's not be too hasty. Suppose belief in actual mystical experience, belief that some apparent mystical experiences are actual mystical experiences, was a useful fiction that evolved in human brains. Beliefs are immaterial and not biological, so it is hard to see how biological evolution could account for such useful fictions, for such beliefs, but never mind that for now. If this belief in the existence of God, if this belief has evolved, why not also grant that all our beliefs have evolved? Amongst the set of all our beliefs is our belief in evolution itself, and our first belief, that of genuine mystical experiences, is a useful fiction, so it may very well be that our second belief, that a particular sort of evolution occurred, could be a useful fiction as well. In other words, this possibility, the possibility for that we evolved a false belief in gods. We believe, contrary to fact, that there are gods and goddesses, or a god in existence. In other words, this possibility is self-defeating. If we can't trust our beliefs because our brains evolved to deceive us, it could be deceiving us on this possibility, that of an evolutionary origin of the belief, in the supernatural. So, and also I think the that possibility may as well commit the genetic fallacy. Alright, so while possibilities 2 through 5 are perhaps not absolutely impossible, each one individually, they are each more or less implausible. The most plausible possibility is possibility 1. But if possibility 1 is actual, then God more likely exists than not. So God probably exists. Okay, so the argument for the existence of God from religious experience is a good argument. It works on the level of epistemic probability. But now I want to examine some rebuttals and show why they are not successful defeaters of the original proof. Objection 1. This argument proves at best only the existence of a God. It does not prove the existence of the God of evangelical Christianity. Response: this observation is true enough, but totally irrelevant. If it proves a God, then atheism and agnosticism fail. QED. Objection 2. People can be mistaken in their interpretation of their experiences. Response: yes, they can, but I already dealt with the main possibilities and explained why they are implausible. So I covered most of the major possibilities, which is good enough for our purposes here. Objection 3. One possibility that you did not deal with is mass hallucination, that I did not deal with. Multiple people claim similar experiences, and hallucinations can occur only on an individual person by individual person basis. So there couldn't be more than one person hallucinating that they're having an experience of God, of the kinds of experiences that people are reporting. There can't be more than one person hallucinating that they are having this kind of an experience. Objection 4. Not all religious persons who claim similar experiences believe in the same doctrine or in the same God. Muslim mysticism, for example, cancels out Christian mysticism. Response: the argument is for the existence of a supernatural reality. Muslims and Christians, for example, agree that there is a supernatural reality. Of course, they disagree on what that supernatural reality is like in certain important particulars, and what that supernatural reality expects of us. But those who say that one or the other, but who's to say that one or the other, the Christian or the Muslim, hasn't got part of the truth but misunderstands another part of the truth? Human beings are not infallible, after all. A physicist may have a correct understanding of relativity but be mistaken at the same time on some details of quantum mechanics. What he or she believes about relativity is still true. This fourth objection is, by my lights, the most serious objection which is commonly urged against the argument from religious experience. Since it is seen to clearly fail as an objection, as a defeater, then we might not be unjustified in supposing there are no good defeaters of the argument, at least as live options on the table. In conclusion, the most controversial premise of the argument is that sincere people are not misinterpreting their actual experience sometimes when they think they are experiencing a reality not strictly natural, as the senator would say. But the most plausible way to understand their interpretation of their experience is that they are interpreting it correctly. In other words, the argument from religious experience for the existence of God is sound. In saying this, I do not mean that the conclusion follows with absolute mathematical certainty from the premises, only that it is more likely that God exists than not on the basis of the argument as a whole. And the serious objections to the argument and the serious possibilities nullifying the controversial premise of the argument, premise 2, I have considered those, and I don't find them to be good defeaters. In the absence of good defeaters to an argument, the argument stands. The conclusion of the conclusion is that God exists. Shalom.